Ryan Reynolds here for, I guess, my 100th Mint commercial. No, don't. I mean, honestly, when I started this, I thought I only have to do like 4 of these. I mean, it's unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month. How are there still people paying 2 or 3 times that much? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be victim blaming here. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/save. Whenever you're ready.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Money decisions don't have to be either or. With Bank of America, they can be yes and. Like yes to sunny vacations and rainy day funds. Can our digital tools and guidance help you create the future you want? Yes. And help you keep enjoying today too. Do more with a bank that asks, what would you like the power to do? Explore our tips and more at bankofamerica.com/yes and.
In this episode from the archives, I'm joined by Zach Dunn, who is a member of my team at USA Football and is now a defensive assistant for the Cleveland Browns. We discussed the strategic use of tempo, analyzing its impact on offense and defense, and break down some different tempo strategies, categorizing tempo into 4 different types. The emphasis is on integrating tempo metrics into play analysis to refine offensive strategies and evaluate defensive responses to multi-tempo offenses. This is an exercise you can perform in the postseason and can be useful to developing and evolving your strategies.
Prep for Thanksgiving at Whole Foods Market. Save now on no antibiotics ever frozen whole turkey. Just $1.49 a pound with Prime. Sales on brie and select seafood appetizers help get things started. For sides, go with wallet-happy favorites from 365 by Whole Foods Market. And finish with decadent desserts from the bakery. Or get your whole spread catered. Just order early. Get Thanksgiving ready at Whole Foods Market. Terms apply.
Blinds.com is kicking off the savings early with Black Friday mega deals all month long. A Blinds.com design expert can help you make the perfect selection on your schedule. We can even handle everything from measure to your whole home install for just one low cost. With over 25 million windows covered, Blinds.com is the #1 online retailer of custom window coverings. Get up to 45% off site-wide and a free professional measure right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome to Coaching Coordinator Podcast. We have The Edge with Rob Everett. Unfortunately, he had to travel this past week and we were unable to get together to record, but we did want to move forward with our discussion on postseason analysis and taking a look at what we did this past season and trying to be able to break down where things worked well and where there are some things we need to fix in this upcoming offseason. And we're going to look at today is the idea of evaluating and analyzing tempo. And that's both on the offensive side of the ball, if you're a tempo team and how well you've used tempo and what are the best tempo tools in your offense. And then on the defensive side, taking a look at what are the things that are hurting you from a tempo standpoint. And joining me today in the discussion is our coordinator of content and analyst himself, Zach Dunn. Zach, I'm excited to be talking about this topic with you. You and I are in Indianapolis here together, which we don't get to do quite a bit, but we're going to knock this out today and talk a little bit about how teams use tempo.
Yeah, Keith, that's right. Can't wait.
So, Zach, you pointed out to me a very creative use of tempo this past weekend. And for our listeners, go ahead and describe what LSU did to Alabama with tempo.
Yeah, so Alabama is a spread team, as most teams are in this era of college football, and they are a big check with me offense, means they will get to the line of scrimmage, they will have a formation called, and then they will have a fake cadence, smack the hands, then they'll look back to the sidelines, and the offense coordinator will either keep the simple play on, such as inside zone or some type of simple concept, or he will check it based on what look he's getting from the defense. Well, what was happening was Alabama was checking with the OC, well, what LSU was checking with their DC. So it was a chance for the defense to sort of get the chalk last. They can show one high, two high. They can show pressure. Then they would check to a completely different look as well. So that's a chance for the defense to get the chalk last, and they're sort of the ones dictating the tempo then to the offense.
And in this particular case, on the one play, though, that was used against them.
Yes, exactly. So Alabama actually, they've been doing this for the whole first quarter. They've been looking to the sidelines to check with the OC, and when they would do that, LSU was looking to check with the DC. And this is something that Alabama had a game plan because Dave Aranda is a coach that believes in getting the chalk last. So what had happened is Alabama went up there, faked the cadence. The quarterback and running back took one step forward, looked to the sidelines, but they were stationary the whole time. They weren't moseying around, walking around. They were stationary. And when they did that, the defense looked to the sideline as well, including corners, safeties, backers. And what happened was Tua clapped his hands again, got the snap, and the whole defense was looking at the sidelines while Alabama ran 3 verticals down the field and caught the defense completely off guard.
Yeah, that's the part to me, which is, I think, exciting about how you can use tempo. When we were at BW, we put together 20 different procedural or tempo tools. We call them tempo tools. And I know a lot of teams just think in terms of the generic 3, 4, or 5, maybe that they come up variations, but there's a lot you can do, like this example, like exactly what Alabama did to really stress a team with tempo. And I think if you look at it now and how this has progressed, teams that just go fast all the time, the defense can actually adjust fairly well to that. It's when you start to mix tempos, and we see this really at all levels. They've gotten pretty good with it in the NFL. Quite a few teams utilize that. And we'll talk a little bit too. You are able to look at a lot of playbooks from that level. And I know you and I were looking at just an analysis of how they use cadence, which kind of fits into this idea of procedural tools. But I think the main thing we want to talk about, though, as we go through these different ideas is how can you figure out what's most effective and where there's some opportunities for you to improve or opportunities to attack the opponent?
Yeah, Keith. So as you're talking about with cadence there, several playbooks that I've had a chance to look through, including the NFL, I've seen there's so many different uses of cadence. I know that the Patriots use one called molasses, where it's sort of like a long, drawn-out cadence that Brady will use that has all the dead numbers and colors in it, in which pretty much he's just drawing out a long cadence. He's trying to get the defense to show their hand. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to use tempo, and I think that to be a great offense, you have to use every tempo in the bag. You can't stick with one tempo, you know. If you're a check-with-me offense, you have to be willing to snap the ball quick sometimes, because if not, the defense is not going to respect you getting to the line fast. They're going to sit back and they're going to check when you check. So yeah, I think that to be a great offense, you really have to use all your tempos, and you have to use them wisely. And the days of building your whole offense around tempo is gone. I remember when I was at Bowling Green in 2016, our whole mantra was Falcon Fast, and the whole philosophy of the offense was just go as fast as we can. And those days are sort of dead now. I mean, teams aren't doing that. And if teams are still doing it, it's really not showing the returns that it once was.
Yeah, and we've seen the defense really come along with their procedural tools. So now one-word defenses have become the norm quite a bit to be able to keep up and really defeat those fast tempo offenses. So it's about being creative. Like with anything, you got to think about how you can use tempos to set up other things, right? To make a team think that you're up to the line quick and maybe running the same play again. I know we game planned it at BW and actually created some huge opportunities because of it. And one of our best tools for that was just being able to run the same play again and then very quickly flip to, out of the same formation, another play. So I can think of a particular example when we were playing at Otterbein, and we started with an outside zone. We started the play with motion. Guy came across, and I have this whole sequence. I'll put a short video up where I explain it all. We go with counter to the left, and we have a big play, like 8 or 9 yards, line up and do it again. Well, our procedure at that point, because we motioned to get in that formation, was something we would just call on the ball. So if we got an again call, right, and we had a signal to run the same play again, we weren't going to go with the same motion. We were just going to line up and go fast again because we felt we had some kind of alignment of the defense that we took advantage of. Well, we called again 3 times with that counter, and then we had a procedure we messed it up in this one, as I explained, but on the ball and we just flipped the play. So everything's the same, except we're going to run a different play. And we went to an outside zone. So we went outside zone, got them to call a timeout. And then in the huddle went with a 2-play sequence where we wanted outside zone and line up as quickly as we could. Again, make it look like we were going outside zone again. But the second play was a naked. And all I was looking for upstairs to give the signal, because the guys would still look to the sideline, make sure we were staying in sequence, was did we get flow to the ball? So we had 11 players flowing to the ball. We went naked on the next play, and the receiver is wide open in the corner of the end zone because even the corner run fit down on the goal line like that. So that's an example of what you can do as you study tempo and get into some different things with it and be able to use it again as a tool. That's for a discussion for another time. That's just an example of it. But what we want to talk today is about how we can think about breaking this down, going through adding just one column to huddle and being able to analyze how tempo worked for us and how tempo worked against us.
With Uber Reserve, good things come to those who plan ahead. Family vacay? Reserve your ride as soon as you book your flights. To all the planners, now you can reserve your Uber ride up to 90 days in advance. See Uber app for details.
So starting on the offensive side of the ball, again, just put that column in there and think about the different tempos you use. You might be a 2-tempo team. You might be a 3-tempo team. Whatever it is, you want to just go through and chart those. The challenge may be that you might not be able to tell exactly what you used on that particular play, but hopefully you can, and you start putting that information in there. Now, after that, you're going to do a sort on this like you would with anything you were trying to break down. So instead of, as an example, sorting on the play concept, you're going to sort on that tempo. Now, once you have that, I think the best way is you could run your reports in huddle like you normally do and track on different things, but then start looking at what is most effective. And I think this is important. Like, we really believed in looking at our plays that there were some plays we felt really good running at a fast tempo, right? So if I was breaking this down, I would want to go into my postseason and be able to confirm that, as an example, our 3x1 stick draw is something we can continue to use at a fast pace because we had success with it when we were in our fastest procedures. On the other hand, maybe a play that requires a little bit of line calls, the way we would do it with like power, maybe that needed to be sorted out a little bit more, and that we find out that when we were up tempo with those things or with that particular play, that it didn't have the success it might have had when we were either able to slow it down or we were going at a normal pace. So that's the whole idea, is you want to get a picture for what are our best plays to run at a fast tempo, what plays need to be slowed down, and then how does a defense react to the changes in tempo tool too. I mean, you can look just as each game as a whole, where did the opportunities lie? Where were you able to catch them off guard a little bit, either with a faster tempo or slowing it down? Because I think there's advantages coming out of a fast tempo. I know for the way we would do it, if we were going super fast, we'd always get out of it with a false cadence and try to get them to jump offside. So again, just thinking about how it can be used, I think there's a lot of advantages to be had in looking at how you can add tempo. And if you believe in getting in the huddle, because I see a lot of teams still huddling today, that doesn't mean you can't use tempo. There's a lot of things you can do out of a huddle as well. And it's all about how fast you get out of the huddle and then what you do as you get to the line of scrimmage. So it all starts, though, with, again, taking a look at and labeling all the things that you did with tempo, and then beginning to look at the breakdown. You might want to look at down and distance as another example, right? Did you try to go fast on third down and it didn't work out for you? As well as if maybe you were able to check a play, right? So again, that's the idea of it. You're going to have things that are particular to you. But again, the advice is go in, add that column, go through and label. And at some point in the off season, I know there's a lot to work through right now. Study tempo, study the effect of your offensive tempo and what it did to a defense. Now, that can also be done on the other side. And Zach's going to take you through some ideas on how you can study and evaluate tempo and what it does to you on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, so just as offenses use tempo, defenses can study them and use them as well. And commonly, there's 4 types of tempo. There is regular tempo, which is the offense is taking their time. They are either huddling, They're lined up on the ball, but they're taking their time, calling out the formation and play. The ball is usually snapped with under 15 seconds left on the play clock. And this is a great chance for the defense to really look at the formation and get their call in late. So they get their down and distance, they see the formation, and they have a pretty good clue on what is coming next. So that is the first tempo. The second tempo would be hurry. And this is the Gus Malzahn type offenses. You have to be thinking one play ahead. They're going to go fast. It's almost like once the ball is spotted, they are on the ball, snapping the ball again. And this is the type of tempo where you know that if you're getting this, you cannot sub, especially on the defenses on the far hash, because you're going to get 12 men on the field. But that is the second tempo. The third tempo is scan. Now, scan is like what we talked about with the Alabama versus LSU game. This is where the offense gets up there. They fake like they're going hurry tempo, but really they're checking back to the sideline to get the new play from the offensive coordinator. And this right here is when the chess match comes into place, because this is when the defense can show too high, get the offense to check to a run, then they can check to cover 3 or cover 1, and they can run to 1 high. So scan is a very important tempo to know when you're getting it and how you can use it to your advantage. Then the fourth tempo that you can tag in your huddle is called auto, and that is the 2-minute style offense. That is almost like your hurry. They are getting on the ball, and they're going extremely fast.
And I think as you start to look at those, again, you start to see where there might be some things you need to work on, you need to adjust. As an example, as you're looking through a game, were you hurt? Were there big plays where they went into a hurry up, right? Did they hurt you on that next play after they were going at a slower pace? Or anytime they checked, were they able to catch you in something? Were you adjusting? Is there something you need to add to the mix of what you do to defend tempo to be either able to disguise that and not let them check into something, or to be able to check out of it too? So if you go through and you find that a team that was scanning you, or with a multi-tempo team goes into scan, that they were able to hurt you a little bit, then that's an area you need to fix in the next season. Maybe it was 1 or 2 times. Maybe you have to look at how you make some adjustments, maybe stem your front or disguise your secondary. Therein lies the opportunities, and being able to use this information that you get, again, from just one extra column in huddle, that you can break down now several different ways to take a look at everything you would normally over the course of a game plan. Taking a look at how does that match up with down and distance? Are you a team that if it's third down and a team goes tempo on you, you find out that you've been hurt quite a bit by that? Well, there has to be something you do either in practice or procedurally to be able to prepare your team better for that particular situation, a third down with tempo, right? So the other thing too, again, at some point you flip the switch from looking at you and then taking a look at what the opponent does and kind of getting an idea what are the answers you have to have for that particular team the next season. It will also help you understand that team and what they're trying to do as you add this as something that you look at and even game plan. And I think that's the biggest thing as you move forward in 2020 is if you do this study, don't let it stop just with an off-season study. Continue this and make it part of your game plan, at least part of your thought process. There's going to be weeks probably where none of it matters. A team maybe is slow in and out of a huddle and that's all they do, or a team is always fast and you just have to prepare for that one. But as teams start to get multi-tempo, this is going to be something that you want to be able to study and have answers for moving forward in 2020.
Yeah, Keith, I would say that one thing I learned from John Gruden back when he was on Monday Night Football was 2 things that people don't realize that is a huge tool is cadence and tempo. And I don't think enough teams put enough emphasis on their cadence and varying their tempos. I mean, you can do a lot with cadence. There's so much you can do with cadence to get the defense to show their hand, to possibly get the defense to jump off sides, to keep defense aligned from getting a jump on the snap. So I think cadence and tempo are 2 things that are very underutilized, that we always look at scheme. We're always looking for X's and O's, but sometimes it just lies in the details of cadence and tempo, just small things that you can just control yourself that can keep the defense off balance.
If this is something you're doing already and you have a different variation of how you do this, we'd love to hear about it. Reach out to us. You can find me at Coach K. Grabowski. We'd love to hear about what you're doing and be able to relay some of that to help coaches out there. At Coach and Coordinator, we pledge to source the latest and greatest products and services available in the coaching marketplace. We call this repository the 10% Toolkit. These resources are proven to help coaches win games and achieve all objectives for their programs. Think of it as a buyer's guide for vendors and suppliers we trust with our seal of certification. Follow all we're doing at coachandcoordinator.com and follow us on X at Coach K. Grabowski.